Good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to be here. My name's Barry Jackson. I work in the marketing division of Anglo American. My role is to find, structure, and deliver third-party offtakes for Anglo American, which we can then channel through our existing sales, marketing, logistics network to our existing customers. That typically is done through a provision of debt financing, where we can syndicate that also to other banks, where we can make use of our cost of capital. But in addition to the funding that we can provide, then a big part of our offering to the sector is that we provide knowledge, technical expertise, services around the long, successful history we have in mining and delivering projects and producing products with the right sustainability characteristics that are becoming more and more important to the downstream customers and investors. So I'm looking forward to addressing some of the topics that were raised by one-to-one for me to talk about in the presentation. We can just take a few of those straight on. So I think it is sometimes seen to be sort of underestimated, the complexity of delivering and building out a whole new industry to enable the growth in sustainable transportation, zero emission vehicles, and energy production, storage, distribution. But we've come a long way across that path already, and a lot of success has been generated, and there's still a lot of opportunity then coming in the future. I'll start with a bit of a temperature test of the room. So if you raise your hand if you have a car or a personal vehicle, van, SUV, okay? Keep your hand up if that's a fully electric vehicle. Okay? I think you can see there's been a small amount of progress in the room, but there's a lot of progress there to come, an opportunity in the future. So I think who will be successful in this transition? I saw a presentation from a car maker at the FT Mining Summit last year, and they were very clear that success in the automotive business in the future will depend on their access to raw materials to deliver the electric vehicles. So I think that's great for people in the room here. Upstream, I think the success will rly on having the products in your portfolio and being able to produce and deliver those products with the right sustainability metrics and the low carbon content. And I'll talk through in the second part of the presentation around what Anglo American is doing to address that at his operations and how we can then leverage that into the partners we work with in the upstream and the downstream space. I think if you look at the narrative on electric vehicles, it's shifted recently from the need to reduce the emissions in particular cities like London, and it's moved to then the carbon footprint of electric vehicle production, which I think is necessary and needed, and that's a great way for the industry to develop. And so that's why it's important to be producing with a low carbon footprint and have access to those raw materials. Also, we've seen a shift to look at mining in not the most positive ways. So we need to tell a better story as the mining industry about the very real economic benefits and benefits to communities that mining has. I think we've lost that collective memory somewhat in the Western world. Unfortunately, I grew up in a mining town. My dad was a fitter on a heavy earth moving equipment. I saw firsthand the benefits that mining gives to communities, and I personally used the gym at the mining head office. I used the football nets that they sponsored, the cricket pitches. So it's something that a lot of people have forgotten around those benefits to communities and the very real economic and good jobs that this mining industry can provide. So in terms of looking firstly at that industry context, we at Anglo American see the industry developing across a number of megatrends with it, electrification and EVs, value chain security, which is becoming more and more important, climate change as we continue to try and address those changes, recycling is going to be a bigger and bigger part of topics and discussions, and future consumers that are demanding more and more from their suppliers. So we have and are going on a journey of doing more partnerships with people upstream and downstream. And in the specific area that I work in, base metals, then we've already announced quite a number of partnerships with copper producers, and it's something we want to continue to develop and continue to create these partnerships with both downstream and upstream players. And as we know, there is a lot of focus on the mining industry and the carbon footprint of producing materials, but we need to remember that if we want to have the solutions to greenhouse gas emissions and to go to a zero emission future, then we need these mined minerals to create those infrastructure around decarbonization, around greenhouse gas capture, around electric vehicles, and around green energy production. You know, take nickel for example. You can see on the left there, you've got how much nickel is needed per megawatt of electricity generation in these green energy methods. So concentrated solar power, quite high nickel intensity. Carbon capture needs quite a lot of nickel as well. Geothermal, wind, they all need these raw materials and increasing volumes in the future. So now to look specifically at the battery demand outlook. And I think quite a lot of the complexity in the industry around forecasting what is going to be demanded and needed by the consumers, and therefore what should the mining industry produce? Should it be nickel? Should it be cobalt? Should it be manganese? A lot of that is tied up in the question of then what is going to be the cathode chemistry in the future. And I think this is a very niche area, and not many people truly understand the different dimensions and you have to look at when you're choosing different cathode chemistries. And we live in a time when, you know, through social media, everybody's an expert and everybody's had a great opinion, and usually they're promoting their part of the value chain, whether that be the nickel content intensive, LFP intensive, you know, high manganese. But so what I've done here is to look at what is going to be demanded in the future from three aspects, and you can make up your own decisions from there. What the analyst is predicting will be the demand for the cathode chemistries, and secondly, looking at what is being produced and consumed today. And when I'm looking at the future, I try to use probabilities. So always for me, what's more probable of being successful in the future is what's successful today, because those have gone from the lab to the car successfully and being commercialized. Some of the others, novel technologies, may not make it to the road or may take some time to get there. I was at a conference in 2017 when a particular cathode maker announced that this new technology, this new cathode, was going to be commercialized imminently. It was going to take over the world. And still, we're in 2024, and that hasn't been commercialized yet. So I think looking at what's successful today is important for the future. So if you look at what Row Motion are saying, they have then the growth in LFP, what we've seen particularly in China. But then we will see from 2030 is a bigger share of the high nickel batteries, which give you the range, the energy density, the fast charging, and the recyclability, what many of those in the industry and the consumers are looking for. I think particularly in the West, while ever charging is considered to be the bottleneck, there will be that demand for the higher range batteries. And also it's important then when we're building that supply chain that the people choose the right chemistries to build into their plans. If you look at the recent bankruptcies of certain companies like Volta Trucks, I think they had tried to go with a LFP battery. The supplier of the LFP battery went bust, and then it was difficult to find a replacement supplier. So I don't think outside of China we're there yet with very much in the way of LFP production capacity. So in terms of what is being deployed today in the electric vehicles which are being sold, then you have a dominance of the nickel-heavy batteries, and they're moving towards more and more nickel content. As you increase the nickel content, you're increasing the range of that battery and you're decreasing the cost. We've seen growth of LFP, particularly in China, but on a global scale. It's the biggest in terms of single cathode chemistry. But if you look at that nickel type, the nickel type is dominant and going more and more to the high nickel battery. Then if you look at the different cell makers, they all have their preferences and their setup in terms of how they have developed their production base and what they will need then in the future to feed those production bases. So CATL, CATL, split across, taking a phased approach, the nickel intensity batteries, and LFP. Panasonic very much on the high nickel NCA. LG, they're very much focused on the high nickel batteries, and BYD is the big LFP producer. And then looking ahead and looking at what the automakers believe they will be consuming and launching in the future, you can see in Europe it's very much a high nickel story in the upcoming and medium-term releases in combination with LFP and the relatively new type of cathode, which is the lithium manganese phosphate. In China, again, they have that focus on LFP, and the number of new upcoming releases will use LFP battery, but there's also quite a big proportion that are going to be using the high nickel 811 and a higher percentage of nickel batteries. Also, some of the nickel manganese battery use as well. And North America and Asia, again, big focus on high nickel batteries, even going to the 90% nickel percentage in the cathode. US is a market that is a big country and needs to have the long range batteries, which the nickel intensive ones provide. So the demand side is developing very well. I think it's great opportunities in the mining space to deliver on the raw material requirements. We can see this move to electrification will require a threefold increase in nickel consumption, for example, to 2050 under the scenario from Wood Mackenzie of their forecast for the percent that will be electrified and the cathode chemistries which are used, which is important to take into account when you're making these forecasts. So looking then to somewhat on the supply side, so we have seen, and I come back to the quote from a leading car company where they see their competitive advantage in the future being defined by access to raw materials. So they have gone and put their money where their mouth is. We've seen a lot of big investments from the car makers into upstream mining projects. But obviously, as we know in this project world, the capital intensity of projects can escalate and delays will happen. We looked at some of the work from Wood Mackenzie, and you can see a 29% increase in the actual or the proposed capital intensity of copper production across those projects from pre-feasibility, and then there's another 50% increase in the actual outturn of those costs. So a lot of room for movement in the estimates of the projects, which new players to the mining industry need to consider and understand. But also, this is not just a mining problem. If you've read the book How Big Things Get Done, this is a problem for projects across the sectors. In their study of 16,000 projects around the world, only 48% came in on budget, and only 8.5% came on budget and on time, and 0.5% came on budget and on time on unexpected benefits. So it's something the industry needs to plan for and anticipate when we're looking at supply chain development. I would add, we think we're fairly successful in Anglo American in bringing on projects, and our new copper project, Quellaveco in Peru, we brought that on stream recently on time and on budget during COVID at 3,000 meters. So we think we have some expertise as well in the area which we can leverage to partners in this space. And just to look at the downstream, there's that scale-up challenge. So we need to build the mines, the products that come from mining, the sulfates. We need to build the cathode active material plants. We need to build the PCAM plants. We need to build the cell plants. We need to build the battery assembly plants and the electric vehicle production plants. So there's a lot there to align and get sequenced in the right way. And that's why, again, we want to create partnerships with people in the downstream so we can align that supply-demand development appropriately in the future. So then switching from that industry context to look at Anglo American and some of the things we are doing in our operations and how we want to leverage those into the junior miner space. So as you know, we're a large international diversified mining company, about 100,000 people working around the purpose of reimagining mining to improve people's lives. So not just the people at the sites and in the local communities, but also the people that are using the products that are produced, the domestic appliances, the electric vehicles, the copper pots and pans, and so forth. And we have developed with our operations our global sustainability pillars across the metrics of ESG. So under environment, we've got a number of targets there that we're working towards delivering on. So by 2030, we were planning to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by 30%. At the same time, then we're going forward to 2040 to be carbon neutral at our operations. We will reduce the freshwater withdrawals by 50%. We will increase the energy efficiency of the operations by 30%. And we will have a net positive impact on biodiversity. Within thriving communities, a number of great goals there, particularly what I reflect on having grown up in a mining town. So we are working on ensuring there are 5 off-site jobs in the community for every 1 on-site job. And we have a lot of metrics underway and support underway to ensure the schools in the local community are in the top 20% of nationwide. So this is our commitments around a pathway to carbon neutral operations by 2040. We've already made some great progress, particularly in South America, where we've gone to 100% renewable energy. And that's been quite a game changer then to the carbon footprint of our operations. Now we're looking to roll out that success in South Africa. Obviously, it's a bigger challenge with the power generation system there in that country, but we're working with EDF then to create a network of renewable power, which will then power our operations. You might have also seen that we've put a lot of effort into creating a fuel cell electric battery truck, haul truck, so a very big vehicle hauling the raw materials on our site. So we have a lot of positive momentum behind that, and we'll roll that out at our operations in the future. And we've also gone to LNG ships in our transportation and our logistics system, which is helping as well. So one part of why we're looking to do more third-party sourcing is then our strategy of being a material solutions provider. So we have a lot of customers in the downstream, in the automotive industry, in that cathode manufacturing industry that want to work with Anglo American and want to source additional products from us that we don't produce at the moment. So that's why we're looking to leverage our capability to source complementary products like lithium to our marketing capability. So we have a good footprint already in battery raw materials, copper production, nickel production, cobalt production to some extent in South Africa, as well as things like chrome and moly, which are important in steel and different parts of decarbonization. And we're leveraging then the marketing capability that we've developed over the last 10 years to move into sourcing origination. So that's been a more recent sort of setup for us. We've brought in people from that sourcing origination world and also from banking to give us that expertise in structuring deals. So we are now in a position where we can offer these various different financing solutions for offtake and for project finance and export credit agreements, where we can structure injections through debt of our own capital, but also then structuring and expanding the value of the investments we can make by involving third-party banks, which also gives us another eye on those projects and assessments. So we do see one of the commercial differentiators that we can bring to the table for third-party producers and junior miners is through that ESG network and capability and the big teams we have around the world. So I think some of the direct examples here we can call on is that what's becoming more and more important to car makers and other people in the downstream is having then the particular certifications and the, if you like, the ticks against the boxes of IRMA and various different associations. So we have quite a bit of experience in that. Our ferronickel operation in Brazil, that was the first in the world to be self-certified with IRMA, and we now have plans to have all our operations certified by IRMA by 2025, and that's the one organization that the car makers are looking to really be the benchmark for certifications. Another one that we've recently launched is what we call Value Track. So that's a traceability blockchain solution, which has become more and more important for our customers, where we take the metrics from each batch production, if you like, and whatever the customer receives, they have the right metrics around the carbon footprint, around ESG, around local employment that they need to have for their own confidence and their own reporting standards. So that's something we've launched quite recently, and it's been quite well received by our customers. And it's something then we can extend to third-party producers to utilize that blockchain solution to deliver those metrics. And it's been quite refreshing. You know, I've been in this industry 20 years. In the last couple of years, it's very good to see then the consumers not just talking in the negotiations about what is the cheapest price, but they really have a strong interest in these different metrics, and they're making purchasing decisions based on those. And then we have a variety of carbon solutions we can offer as well. We've set up a carbon trading desk, and there's a lot we can do around that to support our upstream partners. So last slide from me, just want to summarize. I think given the opportunities, but also the complexities in the industry, we are looking to create more cooperation and collaboration with different parts of the industry. So as part of that, we'll be very happy to talk with people here today around how we can work together to ensure we can deliver on that sustainable future of zero-emission vehicles and energy production and storage. Thank you.